Hello friends, I hope you are having a wonderful day today. In today's video, we are going to be going through the generic medical drama jump. This is a jump doc that, as far as I can tell, is probably a bit on the older side. There is something that is a little bit of a structural hint at that later on that we will discuss. And in this particular jump, you are going to be someone who works at a hospital in some capacity, and you are going to be able to get perks and items that revolve around that particular central theme. Before we go ahead and get any further, it's worth noting that you can roll a 1d8 to determine your location in hospital, or you can pay 100 choice points to choose. That's what that particular little acronym stands for, as usual in these particular videos of mine. So if you ever see that in a video like this, just know that that is what you are seeing. You can get the County General Hospital, Chicago, Illinois, General Hospital, Port Charles, New York, Seattle Grace Hospital, Seattle, Washington, Princeton Plainsboro Teaching Hospital, Princeton/Plainsboro, New Jersey, Sacred Heart Hospital, somewhere in California, the Chicago Hope Hospital, Chicago, Illinois, the Eastman Medical Center, in Los Angeles, California, or you get to choose. So, as a little bit of an explainer, you roll a 8-sided dice once, and that is the thing that determines your location. Or you can pay points to choose, and if you roll an 8 on the 8-sided dice, then that means that you get to pick your starting location out of these different places. Normally in jumps, your starting location will only have a small amount of influence over the time that you are going to have in the jump, unless it is a special location for whatever reason. But in this particular jump, you will be starting out as someone who is employed by whatever hospital you get on this particular little docket. So now let's go ahead and move on forward down to the origins. Now on the next page, you're able to see how you determine your age. Your age, you're going to be at the youngest 26 or at the oldest 33, at least assuming you decide to do this jump doc as it instructs you to do. There are ways you could just home rule that you have your own custom age, or you could have a perk that allows you to control those kinds of details. But assuming you decide to do things as it's listed on the particular jump doc, you have the age at the very youngest of 26 and at the very oldest of 33. The same thing, assuming you are deciding to follow the jump doc's instructions for determining your sex, then it's going to be the same as it was either in your pre-jump life, if this is your first jump, or as it was in your last jump, or you could pay 50 choice points to change it. There are 4 origins in this jump. There is the janitor, which is the free origin. There is the intern, which costs 50 choice points. There is the doctor, which costs 100 choice points, and there's the surgeon, which costs 100 choice points as well. This is the thing that I mentioned earlier, where it's a slight tip off that this is probably an older jump. I don't actually know that for sure, but with older jumps, it is very common that there would be one free origin, and then all the other origins would cost a very small amount, usually 100 or maybe 200 choice points if you wanted to do something like be a protagonist or have a very special set of background skills and that kind of thing going into this jump. Now you have had the chance to go ahead and read this. We're going to go ahead and we're going to continue moving on down. That said, it is worth noting before we move on that if you are a doctor or a surgeon, you add 10 years to your age. That just reflects that you're a little bit more experienced, you're a more credentialed and well-known doctor rather than just being an intern, someone who is, I imagine, doing their residency at a hospital, but I'm not entirely sure. This particular jump does have undiscounted perks. That is the general section that you can see right where my cursor is. For free, you can get the interesting perk, which makes it so that you are now able to see things like blood, guts, mutation, and necrosises without being disgusted by them. This makes it so that you're not squeamish anymore. For either free or for 100 choice points, depending on the origin, that you have chosen, you also get a medical doctorate. At the very least, you'll have all the training that you'll need to work as an attending doctor or a surgeon. You can pick one, and this makes it so that you have a little bit more control over your background and the skills that you're able to sell. It's worth noting that if you're an intern, you will be able to get the papers saying that you've completed all of the things you need to do to be a doctor very soon. And if you're a janitor and you decide to get this particular perk, then you'll have all the skills, but you won't have any of the accreditation. You won't have any of the papers or legal things saying that you are what you are and saying that you can practice legally. So that's something worth keeping in mind if you decide to be a janitor. Additionally, there is the absurdly high paying specialty, and this is a perk that allows you to have training in a specific area. If you want to be an anesthesiologist, a neurosurgeon, a radiologist, if you want to be any of those kinds of hyper specialized professionals, this is the perk that you want to get. It will give you all of the training that you need. It will give you all of the paperwork that you need, all of that kind of stuff. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the actual perks in this particular jump that are tied to origins. Before we move any further, it is worth noting that 100 choice point perks are free for their origins, at least by default. So if you are a janitor, the skeleton key perk is free for you. If you're an intern, the bedside manner perk is free for you, and everything else is discounted. So as a janitor, the skeleton key would be free, the neat and tidy would be discounted, and the dirt would be discounted. And in items, assuming there are origined items as well, the 100 choice points origin item, so something for a janitor, would be free, and then a 300 choice point item would be discounted, that kind of thing. The skeleton key is a very handy perk that makes it so that you can lock or unlock any physical lock with a touch. It also works on nuts. Neat and tidy, which is the next perk for this particular origin, makes it so that you can will things to clean themselves. It also allows you to medically sterilize something with a touch and a thought, and touching someone will impart a full body cleansing. It can even be used on gardens and yards. This is an incredibly handy quality of life perk that I strongly recommend for a lot of people. Honestly, the janitor origin is pretty goated. It's pretty based, whatever you want to call it. This is a very strong origin. It only looks like it would be a less fun origin at a glance if you decide to make assumptions about it. The dirt perk, which is the capstone perk for this particular origin. If you've never seen one of these videos or seen one of these types of documents before, the term capstone means the most expensive in a tree of perks or items tied to an origin. It's a very handy term for you to know if you're looking through these. Makes it so that you are able to overhear all sorts of gossip and all sorts of like rumors that are being spread, and that you're able to do this so long as you're on a piece of property. And also you'll be able to draw upon the collective knowledge of the support staff with regards to the property or organization, where something is stored, the building layout, employee schedules, and other gossip will be known to you. So this is something that could be incredibly handy if you have a specific reason to talk to someone and you don't want other people overhearing. You're able to learn someone's schedule. You're able to learn when they're next going to be on call or when they're next going to be on the premises, assuming that they're next going to be on the premises in a workplace capacity. Or if there is a rumor about them showing up in the next few minutes, you'll be able to hear that as well. Moving on to the next origin, which is that of the intern, you are going to be able to get the bedside manner perk for free. Bedside manner is a very powerful perk that allows you to understand how to give people bad or unpleasant news in such a way that they won't be tempted to take out the news on you, and it also allows you to make sure that they have the opportunity to process the information healthily and promptly. And it is just a broadly useful perk. It could be used from anything from couriers delivering bad news about a military situation to diplomats who are in the process of revealing that the negotiations have in fact failed. And it makes it so that you won't be in any danger, or at least any more danger than you would be just by revealing bad news. It also makes it so that the people that you deliver the news to have an opportunity to be healthy adults and process the information in a good way that allows them to act on even bad news. Soap opera disease, which is the next perk in this origin, makes it so that you can mark someone as doomed. It is critically important that you understand that this does not actually sicken someone. Well, it does. It makes it so that they suffer from mild narcolepsy and will miraculously recover as soon as they hear a shocking secret, but it does not actually make them sick in a way that is dangerous to their health. And it also makes it so that the people who see them have this powerful urge to tell them any feelings or secrets that they're holding, and also gives them the ability to reveal secrets and feelings of their own. This makes it so that people have heart-to-hearts and that kind of thing, induced by the pressure and the sadness of feeling like they're going to die soon. This is a very handy perk that can be used to cause some drama, to learn some chisme, that kind of thing. The capstone perk for this origin is Tugging the Heartstrings. Tugging the Heartstrings is a powerfully empathetic perk that makes it so that you understand what people feel and why. It gives you intuition when it comes to how to influence people and induce particular thoughts or feelings in them. And it also makes it so that the relationships that you have with other people are stable. It makes it so that the only way for people's feelings about you to change is some sort of action on your part. This means that if you had a childhood best friend and you and your childhood best friend moved away from each other, but you guys left each other feeling like that was your best friend in the world, that feeling won't be changed by any action or inaction on your part, so long as it's not something like deliberately ignoring them. But if you just fall out of touch and the two of you do not message each other, the next time you see that person, they'll still feel like they're your best friend. This is a very helpful perk when it comes to people who have to move around a lot, which can be handy for doctors, obviously, but can also be handy for a wide range of different individuals. The first perk for the doctor origin, the perk which is going to be free for them, is Doctor's Orders. It makes it so that if you're actually an expert in a subject, people who are looking for advice regarding that subject will follow your directions to the best of their abilities. If you are a doctor and someone comes to you looking for doctorly advice, looking for a consultation, when you suggest that they take their meds, they will do it. It is something that is incredibly handy for making sure that health things don't get worse, but it can also be something that's very handy if you are a sage and someone's coming to you looking for advice on how to proceed. Now, this doesn't work if you just yell at people who are not looking for advice from you, but if people come to you seeking advice, they will listen when you tell them what you know, so long as you are actually an expert here. Trust me, I'm a doctor makes it so that you can cheer, encourage, or even force a situation to get worse in order to force out the source, culprit, or solution. And it's something that makes it so that you can potentially fix a problem so long as you don't let it get too bad. But if you are seeing someone with a wide range of symptoms and you're not sure what to do, you can use this to force their situation to change in ways that are more dramatic and more risky to their health, but may allow you to find a solution more easily. The capstone perk for the Doctor origin is Instant Diagnosis. It allows you to determine with as little as a glance someone's medical history and anything that you would be able to glean through a non-invasive medical examination. This is very handy in a wide range of different areas. Lots of these perks are very diverse, and it's something that I appreciate about this jump. But this one in particular is something that I really like because it allows you to make sure that you know what is going on with someone health-wise. Now, there are invasive medical examinations that could potentially determine more than you could with a glance, but at the very least, you will be able to gain a sort of surface area understanding of someone's medical state and medical history just by looking at them, which in and of itself can be incredibly powerful, especially if you do not have access to equipment or if you don't have time to run a whole slew of tests. Now let's go ahead and move on to the final origin in this particular jump, the Surgeon. The very first perk in this origin is the Steady Hands perk, which lets you have microscopic precision in your movements. You can hold yourself or objects perfectly still and draw perfectly straight lines or flawless circles freehand. This also makes you more graceful. Now, this doesn't improve your senses to the point where this kind of precision is useful without extra equipment, but this in and of itself can be incredibly handy. This can allow you to make stunning art. It can allow you to be hyper precise when you are fighting someone. All sorts of different situations could be improved in subtle ways with this particular perk. The next perk in this origin is you did everything that you could. It lets you have powerful hindsight, allowing you to examine your own decisions with zero bias, and allows you to objectively analyze yourself, which will allow you to effectively address guilt and learn from both successes and failures. The final perk, no harm, is the capstone for the surgeon origin, and it makes it a lot easier for you to do surgery on things by allowing you to place a single target in your immediate presence within the range of your touch, even if you are not actually touching them, in a tightly controlled variable stasis. You freeze them in time, except for the parts that you need to work on at the moment, and even those can be slow to a crawl to give you all the time that you could possibly need to perform anything from a biopsy to a full brain transplant. This can be applied to anything with guts, which means most forms of living creatures, certainly the vast majority of mundane, real-world living creatures, will be valid. Animals are valid, that kind of thing. And so are electronics, such as bombs. By putting something in stasis, you can perform a complete surgery on them without them noticing, as their brains and nervous system are frozen in time. Things frozen in time are immutable in shape, form, etc., but they can be moved in space. So you can put someone in stasis, and then you can move them to a better position to more freely allow you to perform surgery on them. There are obviously a hilarious number of ways that a perk like this can be used or abused. It's worth noting that while this is not the only straight up superpower perk in this particular jump, this is one of the more powerful. I don't think that I need to begin to go over the various ways that this could be used and abused if you are creative. So it's worth noting as we move on to the item section that there are only 2 items per origin, and there are no non-origined items in this. So if you have an ability that allows you to have more than one origin, you're going to be able to get a whole lot here. 50 choice point items are free if you have the origin, and 100 choice point items only cost 50 choice points if you have the origin in question. So the janitor would be able to get the persistent stain item for free, and the cleaning cart item for only 50 choice points. Persistent stain is a very peculiar little thing. You can make it appear at will on virtually any surface with variable size, and it's nearly impossible to actually clean up. In order to be cleaned up, it requires that you mentally banish it back to wherever it goes, and then actually do the process of cleaning it, which will be done with only a single quick swipe. This is a very handy item if you are creative. If you are someone who likes having excuses to be in places, you can deftly and stealthily place this somewhere and then wait to be called on, wait for people to start to notice, or you can use it to create a sort of spectacle and to create a space where people will gather as they watch as people try to clean something, or if nothing else, you can use it to create a very fascinating source of gossip if you have any abilities that can feed off of that kind of thing. The cleaning cart item, which is the item that would not be free to a janitor, is a trolley that has room for all sorts of cleaning supplies. It has the ability to balance awkward and weighty loads. It has enough space for all the stuff you would need to carry. And it'll only ever weigh as much as the cart itself, which means it'll come in incredibly handy when you're reorganizing your cosmic warehouse, which was something that we've discussed in a previous video. That said, one important caveat: if you leave it alone, its powers will wane. If you should do so for an hour, once you return, you'll finally be witness the aftermath of a junk explosion as it was forced to expel its extra cargo. So while this item can be incredibly handy in the right hands, it's important that you are responsible with its usage, and that you make sure that you clean it out and you take care of it before you leave it alone, so that way anything that is stored inside of it does not become debris on the floor that you need to clean up. If you are an intern, you get the anticipatory beeper as a free item. This is something that this is an item that can minorly see into the future, very specifically of your hospital pages. Any medical alerts or summons you receive from this beeper will, if promptly responded to, allow you to be just outside the door of the room you'd be directed to, just as the actual original page goes out. The clipboard item is something that will automatically fill itself out using your subconscious for direction. This is something that can be incredibly handy, especially if you have the doctor capstone perk, and it makes it so that as you study people, you're going to be able to fill out forms and paperwork on their behalf. The patient's name will appear once you hear it dictated, their symptoms as you identify it. If you're still studying, you can use this to take notes in lecture, and your own summary of the material that you are studying, whether you're hearing it or you are reading it, will appear on the actual clipboard's papers. As we're moving forward, you are able to see the doctor's items, the doctor's coat, and the good stuff. The doctor's coat, which is the free item for the doctors, is a fitted, professional-looking doctor's coat that can be banished or summoned at will, and it will always appear in perfect condition when summoned. And the good stuff is an item that allows you to have access to a wide range of drugs, makes it so that you are able to... very specifically, a sort of supreme painkiller available in both pill and drip form that banishes pain and clears the mind. It has no risks of side effects, addiction, or dependency beyond using it to alleviate chronic pain. You begin with a modest supply and you can create more. Assuming you are operating off of basic jump chain, cosmic warehouse, and item fiat rules, you could probably assume that you will get more at the beginning of every jump, but once you've used a supply, you will need to create more. That said, the instructions here should probably be fiat backed and be assumed to be simple enough for you to create regardless of your origins, allowing you to have access to a very powerful sort of medicine. The items for surgeons are the surgery scrubs and the count backwards from 10. The surgery scrubs is a super complete outfit for doing surgery. Putting on the pants and items will materialize a camp and surgical mask that are mostly for show. That said, even if you don't use them, they're your patients and you will become immune to contamination from each other. You could even cough in your no immune system patient's face and he'll be fine, because this is an item that operates off of fiat rules. So just go ahead and trust in it. So long as you do not have your items be depowered for whatever reason, this will work. The final item in this particular jump is count backwards from 10. This is perfect anesthesia. It is an endless IV drip that, when properly attached to a patient, will send them into a deep state of unconsciousness. They won't be locked in. It won't have any risk of overdose. And the patient's deep sleep could be called a healing trance, which steadies their vitals and all of that kinds of things. To wake your patient, you only need to take them off the drip. The patient will enter a deep sleep and can either be left to sleep off surgery or be woken up with some prompting. This jump, in a little bit of a surprise for a jump of this particular age and the fact that it's generic, has an original OC companion, which is a nurse that is able to do the sorts of doctorial/health things that you do not like to do. Stuff like restraining patients, administering shots, inserting catheters, that kind of thing, and is more than happy to work with you and to do these tasks on your behalf. They find this work fulfilling and enjoys working with you, and when you select this person as a companion, if you decide to select them as a companion and purchase them, allowing them to follow you along the rest of your chain, is someone that you can design to fit your specific aesthetic preferences, personality preferences, that kind of thing. And while it may not be an exact match, it may not be a 100% specific match, it will generally follow the rules that you have stipulated. So if you decided that you would really like your nurse to be a male brunette who really likes reading books about healthcare, that is something that will be able to that is something that will be designed for you, and this person will get along well with you, and you'll be able to have them accompany you on the rest of your chain as an ally, friend, and partner. So now we're at the complications section. The complications section, it's worth noting that this particular complication/drawback section has a complication/drawback limit. This is something that there are going to be plenty of people who opt to ignore. It is not uncommon to ignore this, but if you like following these kinds of rules, if you like doing jumps as they're intended to be done, this is something that you should know. It's something that you should read and be aware of. There are a wide range of different drawbacks that you could have to overcome. Just stuff for you to think about. All of these will add points to your budget, allowing you to buy more and more things. That said, because there is a maximum of 600 points that you can get from this, that's something that you might want to keep in mind when you are deciding. You could obviously take on more drawbacks, you just wouldn't get any points from them. So that's something to just keep in mind. And now we're at the end section for this particular jump. This particular jump document's end section, despite having some distinctive flavor text, is a fairly simple, fairly standard end section. Discharge forms means that you return to your homeworld. Long-term care means that you end up staying in this world. And jump means that you continue along your chain. The notes section shouts out a very special jump maker known as Stupid Dog, who is one of my favorite jump makers. They have made some very fantastic Elder Scrolls jumps, as well as a very strong SCP jump that I really like a whole lot. And now, as a way to show a little bit more growth and experimentation with this channel's content, we're going to go ahead and make a build using this particular jump and go through this in order. I have already done the first dice roll that we need to do for our location. It was a 1d6, it was a 1d8, and it was a 6. So that means that for our location, we have the Chicago Hope, Chicago, Illinois Hospital. And for our age, we are going to go ahead and roll another d8. Let's do that right now. And that means that we are going to be 28 in this particular jump. We are going to keep our sex the same, which means that we're going to be male. I'm using we to refer to both myself and the particular character that I'm creating for this. This is not going to be the beginning of a new chain, although that would be a fun idea. Instead, this is just going to be a simple generic first jump build. For our origins, we are going to go ahead and add the doctor origin. So that means that we're actually going to be 38 instead of being 28. We are an attending physician, far more worthy of the title doctor. We're in charge and responsible for the minute-to-minute decisions in patient care. We are going to be grabbing the interesting jump. We are going to be grabbing the medical doctorate. Both of those are going to be free for us, so we still have all 900 of our remaining choice points. And then we are going to go ahead and start looking at what we would like for our particular origin. We're going to be getting the doctor's orders perk, which is going to be free for us. We're going to be getting Trust Me, I'm a Doctor, which is going to bring our budget down to 750. And then we are going to be grabbing Instant Diagnosis, which is going to bring it down to 450. From there, I think that we should go ahead and look at some of the other stuff that we can get. I'm thinking about what would be the best for someone who wants to be a doctor. I think that the neat and tidy perk would be a very fun one to have. I also think that bedside manner would be very fun to have, and that is going to bring us down to 50 points because that was 400 points. And then the last things that we are going to go ahead and grab will be the doctor items, which are going to be doctor's coat and the good stuff. So we're going to have a professional lab coat. It's going to be really, really nice and cool looking. And we're also going to have access to a supply of painkillers that have no negative side effects or addiction. Beyond the necessity of using it to alleviate chronic pain, we have a modest supply and have the formula to create more. I do not think that we are going to take any of the complications. Instead, I think that having a build that just ends with no complications for someone's first jump is not a bad idea. I definitely think that there's worse things that you could do than being smart and using your 1,000 points responsibly. I really like this particular build. This particular build is something that allows someone to do a lot of doctor-related things, even if they can't do the hyper cool surgical stuff, but they can instead instantly clock someone's illnesses and things like that just with a glance. They can deliver the important news. They have access to the tools that they need. They have a job that is safe and secure, and also they have the experience. I like to think that for this jumper's decade-long stay in this particular setting, they are going to be beginning their career as a jumper thinking strategically and thinking also benevolently. They want to have the skills needed to help people. They want to have the skills needed to know how to treat injuries and illnesses. So they decide to start off here and they decide to start off as a doctor, doing spending some points to make sure that everything works as effectively as it can, but also doing things to make sure that they have the skills and the charisma and also the know-how to be valuable in their next few jumps. Their abilities as a doctor is something that are going to be very handy and means that in future mundane jumps they're going to have all the stuff that they need to be able to continue along their chain with no difficulties when it comes to finding a job and finding housing. I honestly think that this jumper is going to have a pretty easy time doing a lot of different jump related stuff, and I think that any chain that follows them would be really exciting. I think that it'd be cool for them to get to see all the cool places that they're going to get to go to. And I'm also just really amped to see where they go next. I think that in my head, this could be a jumper who uses medical skills in a wide range of ways. And I also think that this would be a fun chain to follow. If people would be interested in us doing something like that, so that's certainly something that we could do. If you would like to see something to that effect, let me know in the comments down below. And I'm now going to go ahead and end this particular video. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing what else you have to say in the future. Bye-bye, everyone.